Hi everyone, Scrappy Kathy here with Mixed Media Frenzy. This week, it's a challenging lift that I found in my Pinterest saved layouts to try, and I love it. I love the blue and white on the craft background. This is kind of a, I don't know, somber, dreary-ish beach photo, and it's beautiful, and I love it, but I'm going to go a little bit different direction while maintaining some of the same features. So, let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this photo, which is a shot that I took. It's part of a shot I cropped it out of a larger photo of a view early in the morning, just maybe an hour or so after sunrise at Pensacola Beach at Margaritaville down in Pensacola Beach. And it's got the Gulf view kind of through. There are several different blues and aquas in there, and it's taken through the sea oats that are planted to hold the dunes. And I just loved it when I did the 3x12 print. Let me start. Let me cut that. In any case, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to mat the photo on this paper that is kind of a distressed cream color that looks a little bit like the color of the oats. And this is a Dear Lizzie 5th and Frolic from, gosh, 2012, so 8 years old, this piece of paper. It's got some really nice pink distressing tones and kind of watercolor bits on it. That's not going to show much, but I'm going to save this for another layout, and I really love the branding strip, so I'll do that. So I'm going to mat the photo in that, and then I'm going to try to, I'll have some mixed media over on this side that kind of comes down over to this area, and this side coming up, that will have a little bit of color to it, but I'm going to try to go white on white on white with this and see how that looks. I'll have some blue in there and some aqua, I think. Last time we were in Pensacola, I went to my favorite brick and mortar shop in the area. It's called Gigi's, and she had this. It's a laser cut, really heavily pressed chipboard, and it's a it's a fishnet panel, they call it, and it's by Scrapaholics. That's not a brand I'm familiar with, but I scooped it up and had plans to use it on a mixed media layout, maybe as a stencil first and then as an element, but I haven't used it yet, and I'm not going to use it as a stencil today. I'm going to very carefully try to cut it in half so that it ends up, I can put it above the photo and below the photo, so it has that kind of vertical look there. So I'm going to put that aside. Another thing I'm going to use is, this is the emptied foam holder for pop dots. So those are foam dots, and I'm not sure how, but it managed to get, I think I must have used this as a to press down and make an impression on a jelly print, a gel print. And it's picked up some of the paints. I don't know if those will transfer or it kind of looks like there's a coating and they may not transfer. But in any case, I'm going to put my mediums through that. There's the soft gel gloss, and I have some iridescent glaze. This is kind of dried out a little bit, and so I'm going to kind of scrape it up and use some of it through there. And then I have some gesso, which I'm going to use to color this. Yes, that's the magic gesso that I spilled. I'll try to be a little more careful today. I have some wood bits, some feathers that I fussy cut, metal, feather, and leaf, and bird, charm, some perspectives, some other bits that as I put it together, I'll see what I want to do. I've got several wood pieces that could be my title. I started out with Hello Happy, and I have these alphas. It would be two different, I kind of would prefer to have two different materials, but this would be the same material, wood veneer. So that's kind of my favorite idea at the moment, but we'll see how much space is left after I do everything else. So first thing I'm going to do is slice my photo off here. I have this wonderful 12 by 12 photo paper. Let me get all this off. I usually have everything sliced off beforehand, but for some reason I didn't quite do that. As you can see, I have some photos printed for future layouts. I never waste a sheet by just printing one photo. And this has a nice white border around it that I accidentally cut evenly, but I don't want it matted or bordered in white. I want that same size border in that kind of cream color that I showed you before. So we'll see. I'm going to call it an oat color, a sea oats color. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do some wet work on my background, and I want to know exactly where the photo is going to go. So I'm actually going to put the foam on the layout and then work around it, because when I do the you'll see here there's this kind of gauzy material there, kind of reinforcing that whole fishnet idea. I have some gauze that Christina Sorge sent me one time in a kit and said, I can't wait to see what you do with this. And I have used it as an applicator, and I've also wet it with all kinds of different mediums and twisted it and kind of placed it, colored it, placed it on layouts. And I still have quite a lot left. So in this case, I'm going to, as you can see, I'm pulling fringe because I want that fringe to show, and I'm going to do it on one side, and I've got quite a lot of this, the thread coming out, which I could use on this layout or on another. And at some point, I want to pull a thread that will gather it and let me kind of, in any case, when I'm working with this, I expect it to be wet, and I don't want the photo anywhere nearby. So this has got a little bit, I actually looked for some real gauze in my first aid cabinet, and lo and behold, I have a lot of non-stick large pads that have that kind of telfa coating, and I didn't have any just plain gauze. I must have used it last time somebody had an injury. And I almost considered some of the elasticized tape that you wrap knees and things with. Okay, so that's probably what I'm gonna do there. Let me do the matting here. I'll place it on here where it's evenly spaced there. And then I'll cut it again so that it's evenly spaced, and that leaves me with my, let's see if I can get that spacing. I normally don't worry a whole lot about spacing, as you can probably tell, but I'd kind of like this one to be pretty perfect because it's going to stretch all the way across the page. Okay, so I'm envisioning it ever so slightly higher than dead center. That cream background, by the way, or the oat colored background, really does set it off nicely from the white. So I'm going to cut a couple of 3-inch, I'll go 3 inches. Three-inch pieces of foam, and it's gonna sit down like that. I'm actually gonna cut them a little bit narrower than that because I want to be able to tuck the I want to be able to tuck that cloth, the gauzy stuff, right up next to the foam on the page, and then have the area that I've glued it on with. Let's see how much of that to cut off. Get that fairly even. Anyway, I want to get that, I want to hide that seam, that place. Look, I'll have it look like, normally if I weren't working wet, when I just leave a little bit of room behind the foam. And okay, so I'm gonna need to cut it some more there, and then here, cut that with scissors. Okay, let's see, we can go like that. And I'll just put this down, and then we can start actually doing the work. I'm going to be slightly up because I want to leave room for what's going to go on kind of over in here. And I like the one in the original. I've actually left a, I've actually chosen a photo that is a little bit repetitious, so it doesn't matter if I kind of cluster some, the title and the, and some of the embellishments over top of the photo. If I do it over here, I'm kind of covering up some of this, the foliage of the sea oats. So it's going to go like that. Now let's start what we're going to do. I'm going to kind of I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a swath kind of going like that, of putting the, well, first, let me come over here. I'm sure you're not seeing that. Get the back of this, and I'll, okay. I'm gonna just do some of the gesso over it. I don't want it, it has some depth, some profile, and I don't want it to be absolutely perfectly white. Let me make sure this is on camera. I definitely wanted to read white, but I want you to be able to see some of the depth on the inside, so it also has some texture. So, and what will help with that is if I photograph it outside. I'm really enjoying being able to get things outside and photograph my layouts there, because that tends to increase any view of depth. Okay, I'm going to put that off to the side to and now I'm going to wipe anything that's damp off here so that I can turn this over and show the original. Okay, I'm going to kind of set that there, and now I'm going to pull the layout back and kind of do this. This is going to go on white, and I'm going to use the same brush that I used for the gesso, and here you can watch me close my gesso jar completely and pull my little gesso crumbs out. This is a soft gel gloss. I'm gonna do, okay, that's, I'm having trouble opening that too. That's a little wetter medium, and I'm going to, see, I've got some threads kind of caught in there. That's not gonna make too much of a difference. I'm going to kind of sweep it through here with the paintbrush, just sort of sloppily, and kind of curve it a bit over to here. And it's kind of picking up the color in some areas. Okay, not particularly attractively, but that can be fixed, I think. Let's try it this way. Kind of do the same thing here, and it kind of, with something this deep, and that's my intention, is I kind of want it to gather in certain areas. Okay, there's that, and let me do a little bit over here, not quite as much, because there's going to be a lot going on over here, and I don't really need a whole lot. It seems to be picking up the greens more so than I expected, more so than the other colors. And there's a little bit of green in the photo, so I'm not too upset with that. Now I'm going to, after closing this very carefully, I'm going to somewhat obscure what I've just done by patting it with a damp baby wipe. You've still got some collection of color there where it was rolled on. This is kind of looking a little bit squarer than I want, more squared off than I want. So now I'm going to go with Vicky Bouton Iridescent Glaze. And as I said, it's a little bit dried out, but it'll have a completely different look on the paper because of that. Let me get that off. I'm gonna kind of dig a little bit of that down in. And I'll let this be the texture. Oh, wow, that's a little more texture than I want. So, not a problem. I can do that. Let's see if I can round this up here. Okay, again, a little bit of tapping where some of the really dry pieces are. I'll try to do an arc here. Okay. Okay, so that's pretty messy. That's kind of the name of the game, but if you'll recall, there's a lot else going on here. I'm gonna take, right now, this one of these cloths, and I'm going to just sort of finger wet it with the soft gel medium. And that, I'm thinking, that will allow me to kind of manipulate it and have it take on, I'm really just kind of dipping my fingers in here and doing this. I expect when it dries, it will have a kind of messy look. I'm going to brush some of this medium underneath for the cloth to stick to. I'll have some wrinkles in it along the way, particularly over on this side where they may actually show, because I've got the netting stuff going in there. Okay, so here and here. Now, I can fold some of this up. Get that fringe kind of up, sort of like distressed paper edges. Okay, let's get the other one. And finger wet it again. Maybe don't need to do as much as I did on the upper one. I'm seeing that this is like a lot greener than I like, so I may do something with a stencil and some gesso, or a stencil and some or some ink splatters. So let me do this. Okay, let me do a little bit of the kind of pasting it down. And what I'm going to do as to finish it, because this will by no means be dry at the end of this video, I will show the placement of the photo, but I will do the embellishment cluster so that we can make those design decisions, because I haven't made them yet. Okay, there, kind of stick that there. And then I've got lots of this thread, which I thought I might use here as well. Maybe right in here where I expect that main embellishment cluster to be. Let me pull this back up. And I don't know how much of this will show, but it may just have a little bit of texture kind of peeking out. And up here where I have this area that's kind of a little bit of a dip in this thing, I thought I might. And all I'm doing is touching it with this wet, this paintbrush that has some of that medium on it. And that should glue down enough. It'll leave a lot of it loose, but it'll glue down enough that it'll stick and won't come off the layout. Okay, so now another thing I have not done before filming is to weed the feathers out of the dies. I have these dies, they're Impression Obsession, and they do lots of these dies with deeply cut images in them. So let me pull these out and get them weeded. Actually, let me see if I can clean some of this off my hands, because I think my fingers picked up not only some of the medium, a lot of the medium, but some of the color as well. And I really don't want that on I'm telling you that I don't want that on the feathers, but I am fully aware that if some gets on the feathers, I can just distress my feathers the way they did. So I should have done this ahead of time. Usually these things come out. I probably need to run some sandpaper through my die, cut some thin sandpaper, just kind of sharpen things up a bit. There used to, when I pulled the feather out, all the weeds stayed in the die. In fact, I had to clean a die before I did these so the weeds wouldn't be in there and affect the cutting of this image. And this is the most difficult these have been to weed. So I use them a lot. You've probably seen them on many layouts. I think what I will do is, as I assemble these, maybe I'll leave the weeding till later off camera, but I'll do enough of it to give us an idea what that may look like. Some of these areas in here are easier to get out than others. Some of them are larger than others. But I'm beginning to see a little bit of variation in the cutting depth, and that's usually due to one of two things. They're getting a little bit dull, and so and they don't get dull all in the same place. And my cutting pads on my die cutter may be a little warped, and as the pressure comes down, it's not pressing. It doesn't allow the pressure to be even. The pressure's uneven. So I may have a combination of both of those things going on. This is not a huge problem unless I'm on camera and kind of in a hurry. But the upside is that everything on here on the layout is probably heading towards being dry. Kind of get some of the obvious wet spots blotted with a paper towel. And I'll go back to my weeding. I can do these after I assemble. This one's a little bit easier than the other two, so I may not use this long, narrow feather as much as I have used the others. Okay, that one's completely done. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is use some of this thread and I'll use it to tie these guys. Or actually, what I'll do is a dab of glue and let's see what we're gonna do here. I'll do a dab of glue to hold them together down where they overlap. Okay, and there, I'm gonna even use this to press that down because I can't mess that up, she says confidently. And I'll take this and kind of wrap it around and not make any attempt at trying to tie it with my gluey fingers. So I'll do that and kind of twist it and roll it over. That's going to be hidden, I think, but in case any of it shows, I think that would be a good look to have it kind of tied with something that looks like twine or string. And those are just the threads that I pulled from this when I was making the fringe. Okay, so there's that. And I'm gonna kind of have that right there. And as I look at it, I really don't want a whole lot. This is it's a charm. I found it in a section called Vintage Findings at a craft store somewhere. And it's called Vintage Vogue, V-I-N-T-A-J, Vogue. And it's solid brass, hand finished. I think it's meant for antique-y looking jewelry. So I'm going to kind of place this here. I may glue the leaves down. They're kind of colored green, and then I've got an aqua colored feather there. So let me kind of glue that down, and then I'll move the bird so that he's loose. Okay, so that's there. And I have other kind of seaside images. I've got this crab and a shell and a starfish and an octopus. I'm not liking those as much as this guy. Let me move that guy over, and I'll use this wood. I'll glue it down. It kind of will be at an angle. I think I really like that. It'll be at an angle here, kind of tucked under those feathers. I'm going to press that down, and the top of it will be raised, so I think that's going to look nice. And you know, I have this tiny little title. I just dropped something. I'm not sure whether I need it or not. Oh, yes, I do. I thought that if I didn't use the little sea creatures, I have these rhinestone looking things. Why don't I just glue my title right in there instead of on top of the photo? So let's kind of look at how this is shaping up. The photo is going to go right here, and then, well, maybe I do want to put it there, and then I'll find something to go under here, maybe one of those rhinestones, or a crab, or this little, I've got this, okay, let's do that. I'm gonna do this kind of just like I did the seashell, so that it will kind of climb up over the level of the photo. I'm gonna glue it down there, and then I should be able to lift it up and stick the photo down there. Okay, so now I'm going to take, I'll put one here, and one here, and one here. That's a good triangle. I'll do the clear one here, and the purpley one kind of down here. It has Lots of pretty colors in it, and the blue kind of up a little higher there. Okay, and Life's a Beach is going to go on the photo, so let me go ahead and do that now. Let me figure out where it is, then I'm going to take the photo away because I don't want it around this wet stuff too much. Here, I'll kind of put it right there. Okay, let me get that out of the way. And then I'm going to go about, let me get another baby wipe and see. You know what I did? Oh my goodness, you guys. I forgot to cut this and it all goes under there. So, oh my goodness. Do I need it to go there, or could I just have it at the top? I will just have it at the top. And which way do I want to cut it? You know what? I'm going to cut it and I'm going to see if I can do it both places. I'm going to see if I can lift this. This is not advisable if you're doing this at home, but because the things are glued by their kind of, they're not heavily, flatly glued on, and the glue is wet on these jewels, I'm able to do that. So sorry, and I wish I could tell you this doesn't happen often, but it does. And if you watch, okay, I'm gonna try to press that down in the medium. That seems to be working, and I can do this one here. You know, I really like this bunching. Well, that's not good. That's still going to show. I was going to say I don't really want that under the photo, but the photo's not going to really hide that. Okay, now, let's see if I can get all this put back the way it was, because I really liked it. Okay, I'm going to do a spurt of glue on there. And I'll do this. Kind of press it down. I will re-glue this guy, which may have a little bit different look. It still should overlap the photo. And my little palm tree should as well. Do I want to do a palm tree or something else metal? I'm going to go with the palm tree. Okay, and I've kind of got it stuck down into into the netting. Okay, more hand cleaning. You'd think we were in the middle of a coronavirus epidemic with all this hand cleaning. And I apologize for the fact that I don't have anything to scrub it off with at the moment. I guess I could use, this is the rest of that gauze that Christina sent me that I'm using on there. So I guess I could use that. Okay, now I'm going to attack some of this stuff. And how I'm going to do that is with the Incredible Magic gesso. And I'm going to take this back, maybe run it like that, and just kind of brush some through that will sort of overlap it. Doesn't really take much out. So let me kind of do something like this. Okay, it still leaves enough of the green to have a hint of color there. And it actually kind of adds to the texture. So I'm going to kind of go up here. I don't know if this is in frame. I kind of, when I move things around as much as I have done here, I'm afraid of being a little bit off frame. Okay, now what I think I'm going to do is pull a blue ink and do some drops. I'd probably prefer this is an Adirondack color wash in a color called Stream. Then I have Calypso Teal. So that's getting on the cloth, which is good, and kind of under this. It's also getting on the feathers, and that's okay. Let me get kind of up in here. It's on the net, and it kind of should end up looking a little like bubbles, maybe. The Calypso Teal will give us a little bit more of an aqua kind of color, and it's a different type of ink, so the spots will look different. Okay, now I'm going to say we are pretty much done. I'm not going to glue this down, but I will kind of slide it into place and let you see what the finished page will look like. So there, I'm happy with it. This is a page that I would have enjoyed making. I will probably add some written, maybe a strip right here that has the date and the place of the photo. There's not a whole lot of story, but I do keep a book of, and I'll trim these things on the side. So let me make sure, I'm going to stand up and look at the camera and make sure you can see it all. There. Okay, so that's my page. This is the original. And I think I have the textural elements that I liked about the original. I may need a little bit of gel medium underneath here to get that stuck down a little bit better. May want to tuck it up in there. And in fact, the photo's loose. So when this is all dried, I'll be able to fix anything that's not stuck, and I'll be able to slide the photo down under these pieces. Okay, so it'll look more like that, and we'll have a little overlap there. So that's my page. I thank you very much for watching and for sharing my screw-ups as well as my successes. And have a wonderful day. See you next Friday. Bye.